Hello, welcome to another Tweedy Outdoors video. Would you believe, despite all my interest in all things Neolithic, I have never featured Stonehenge on this channel before. Oh, got stuck. I did have special permission for that drone footage just now. I'd like to assure you it was all completely legitimate. This is of course the Stonehenge Inn at Durrington. I've decided to actually try and visit the real thing today, but I'm going to do it on the cheap rather than pay whatever the current exorbitant fee is to visit Stonehenge as a proper tourist and still not be able to get quite up close and personal with the stones. I'm going to see how close I can get just following footpaths and open access land. There is either an X4 or an X5 bus that takes you from Salisbury here to Durrington. You can also get off at Amesbury if you prefer, both of them relatively close to the Stonehenge site, sort of the far edge from the main event. But we can go and visit some of the ancillary sites like Woodhenge, hopefully, and hopefully get a glimpse, albeit perhaps from a distance, of the real thing. If for some reason this isn't good enough for you and you know, you must be a real fussy so-and-so to not be satisfied with that. Short section walking along the road there, but there was a footpath by the side, and now we're onto this public footpath. Behind me here is the site of Durrington Walls. It's a sort of bowl depression now. There isn't a huge amount to see of the earthworks today. Possibly a settlement. One theory is that this could have been housing for the workers. The people who were building Stonehenge may have lived here. I'm guessing this wasn't left here by English heritage. So the posts behind me today are obviously modern. They mark the locations of what used to be, we believe, timber posts. And this site has only been known about for 100 years. It was discovered by aerial photography. Mike Parker Pearson and chums posit that wood represents life and stone represents death. So their theory is that this monument here was used for ceremonies relating to the living, possibly births, and Stonehenge would have been used for ceremonies relating to the dead, funerals and remembrance services of the ancestors. All of that, of course, is conjecture. And I also think there are interesting parallels with Avebury here. Avebury has both the primary site of stone circles, but also the sanctuary, and it is believed that that was possibly the location of similar timber posts. Not far from Woodhenge, we have the Cuckoo Stone. Apparently would have been upright at one time. I suppose, I'm guessing this end over here would have been the base and this end over here would have been the tip. Not quite sure why it's called the Cuckoo Stone. This is a slightly elevated spot. I don't know if you're getting a sense of that from my very short tripod, but you do get a view slightly downhill from here down to Woodhenge, and you would probably be able to see Stonehenge from here were it not for the trees currently in the way. Afternoon, ladies. This is down in the far corner of that field where the Cuckoo Stone is. Perhaps I can show you some map graphics. I think we're briefly leaving the open access land area now. Sorry, I've had to put on this horrible raincoat. I don't know if I mentioned in the intro, but the weather forecast for today is pretty grim. Back onto the open access land now. Apparently there is a long barrow around here somewhere, possibly in this little copse. I can't seem to quite locate it. Ah, definitely a barrow of sorts here. Is that the long barrow all the way down here? Oh, it seems to be round, so I think this is in fact a bowl barrow. Quite a large one though, part of King Barrows. Another of the old King Barrows here. Beyond that gate there, you can see over to the drove. Probably minuscule on the GoPro. There's the usual line of vans on that ancient byway, and I at least have my first glimpse of Stonehenge. I'm going to need to do some pretty excessive zooming for you guys to be able to see it. I'm hoping somewhere down here I can connect with the avenue, which was part of the, if you believe Mike Parker Pearson, the ancient sort of processionary route. Afternoon ladies, afternoon ladies. I think I am now on the course of the avenue. Hopefully you can just about make it stretching out before me. The avenue takes a dip here, and that is just of course following the contours of the landscape, but it does create this effect where, you know, back there you're all a bit blasé about it, oh yeah, Stonehenge, and then you go down to this dip and suddenly it starts to loom above you, and here for a moment Stonehenge disappears behind the brow of that hill. Just wanted to capture that moment. Stonehenge appearing over the brow of this little hill. Wonderful. There you go. There's Stonehenge, right at the edge of the open access land. Very nice German family just gave me a lump of chocolate over the fence. There is no escaping the fact it is a bit wet. It is certainly raining a bit. I believe the current entry fee to Stonehenge for an adult, if you don't book in advance, is £30. Not really getting the sense that people here today in this grim, miserable weather are feeling like they're getting value for money there, apart from that lovely German family who were full of beans, bless them. I can actually get a bit closer here. In fact, one fence closer. I think the nice German family didn't pay either, so wonderful. That's probably why they were so upbeat and cheery. They've come along this public path that goes along the sort of perimeter of the pay-for site. So there we go, look, there's this handy perimeter path which gets you that bit closer. Still haven't paid a penny. Well, Stonehenge, it has been magical, thank you. I've enjoyed that, but I think I'd like to try and get somewhere with a bit of shelter now. Very exposed here, so perhaps it's time to start thinking about trying to find a spot to have some food. Just going to put up a quick tarp here so I can sit here and have some dinner. Well, I've set up a tarp of sorts. It's pretty drippy actually. I'm getting a lot of drips from the corners. I only have the tiny one with me, but anyway, I'll struggle through. I'm going to attempt to make spaghetti bolognese, that not very authentically Italian classic. I've gone back to the billy can setup. So I'm going to start in time-honoured tradition by chopping up an onion. If you can hear me over the rain noises. The usual, not really very efficient knife. All a bit more slippery because it's wet. Oh, that's terrible chopping, isn't it? I'm afraid I don't really have it in me to do it any more elegantly than that today. It's getting dripped on. Some oil in there. The good news is I managed to find my piezo lighter. It was hiding somewhere in the kitchen. Does it matter? Probably not. That very badly chopped onion can go in there. A bit of a fry. I'll chop up some garlic as well, but you don't need to see me do that, do you? Some of the good old nondescript mince go in there. Can you guess which wine I chose to pair with spaghetti bolognese? I was considering earlier having a glass of this at Stonehenge, but I thought that might be taking the taunting of the paying tourists just a bit too far. That's just a bit mean, really, isn't it? Put a bit of a slosh in there, I guess. Add a bit of a deglaze. I think I'm having fun now. So this is Louis Boyau's. I probably featured this before. I bought a case of this. 2018 Gevrey Chambertin. It's pretty dark fruit, sort of dark cherry, black plums, but I think it's pretty good. It's the sort of intense, rich, earthy kind of Gevrey Chambertin one needs for sitting in the woods on a damp day like this. What am I talking about? I brought along a wooden spoon for a change. I thought the usual spork is going to be difficult to eat actual spaghetti with. Fine for other kinds of pasta, but a bit challenging for spaghetti. So you can't really mix around things in a frying pan with a fork. Spork seems fine. This is terrible content, isn't it? And those are really embarrassingly badly chopped onions. Anyway, in goes this diminutive tin of tomatoes. Oh, you probably wanted to see that, didn't you? Here's some retrospective footage of me putting some tinned tomatoes into the pan. Really embarrassed by those onions. We'll try and get the remainder of this out with a bit of water. Final touch is a bit of this tomato stock cube. Adds a bit of salt and adds a bit of umami and does all the good stuff. I mean, I would normally cook this for ages at home, but I'm going to set it to one side for now and get some water on to boil. Good old Billy can. Haven't used this for a while, so that I can boil this spaghetti. It's going to be a bit challenging in this tiny pan, but I'm sure I'll make it work. While that's coming to the boil, I can sit here and enjoy this glass of wine in this delightful setting, this delightful woodland setting. Soaking wet. A logistical challenge here, given that the spaghetti is clearly a bit bigger than the pan. And I reckon I wouldn't do this at home, it feels like sacrilege, but if I just break that in half, then it will go in. Whether it will cook nicely or not is perhaps a different issue, but it's almost at a boil. It's close enough for me. Once it cooks a bit, it will fit, I promise. This is bucatini, is it called? You probably can't quite see on camera, but it has little holes running through the middle of the spaghetti. I think that means it will cook ever so slightly quicker, so it's about 8 minutes. There is just something immensely satisfying about a billy can. Definitely getting a nice rolling boil now. I think I might even try and turn that down a bit. I think that's working pretty well, actually. Of course, an Italian chef would tell you need significantly more water than this for this amount of pasta, but it will basically work. Tasted a bit of that. I think that is basically done now. Pretty happy with that. I'm going to take this off for a moment. Perhaps it can sit just for a few seconds. I really don't want it to go soggy. I'd just like to heat this through again. Oh, here's a pretentious chefy thing. Apparently you're always supposed to add a little bit of the cooking water from the pasta to your sauce. Something about the starchiness. Blah, blah, blah. I did a rudimentary job of draining the spaghetti. Hopefully there is just about enough space in the pan to get that all in there. And give it a bit of a mix around. Just the last couple of bits out. One final touch. Grated this at home just to make life easier, and I'm really glad of that now, because I didn't want to be messing around with a cheese grater in these conditions. Bit of Parmesan-esque cheese. Not technically Parmesan, I won't bore you with the details, but it serves very much the same purpose. There we go, and we are done. Spaghetti Bolognese in the woods, not far from Stonehenge. Should probably top up the wine a bit. Gevrey Chambertin, spaghetti bolognese under a tarp. Very little of me. It's not damp, but that's okay. See how this is. That is bloody lovely. It's warm, flavoursome, hearty. I probably have tomato sauce on my chin. Wonderful. Really, really pleased with that. Alas, time to take the tarp down. That's what it looked like, in case you were wondering. I don't know what this configuration's called. My motivation for it was to not put any tent pegs in the ground whatsoever. So it's all tied up from trees. 5 tie-up points, including that one, so that there's a little bit of a sort of, you know, a ridge on the roof. Okay, hashtag leave no trace. I seem to be a bit cold, actually. I think it's just the wet more than anything else. I'm sort of a bit soaked through. Definitely time to be heading back now. The nice thing about those buses to Salisbury, the X4, X5, whatever it was, they do seem to run quite late, which is great. Looks even more bleak out of the woods. I think it would be fair to say the weather's mildly unpleasant now. Slight change of plan. There are still buses going from the Stonehenge Inn, but I think I've just missed one and it's a long wait until the next one. So I'm going to try a different bus, the other side of the Amesbury roundabout. According to Google Maps, there is another bus I can possibly get back to Salisbury, see how that goes. Good news, there is a tunnel, it appears. If you've ever driven along the A303 past the Amesbury roundabout and wondered what it looked like from underneath, and here you are. Made it to that bus stop. Hopefully there's actually a bus. I'm on the bus. There we are, I'm back at Salisbury station. Hopefully that's in shot. Maybe the audio has gone bad now because the windscreen thing that I have around the GoPro is essentially a wet sponge by this point, so you may well not be able to hear anything I'm saying. I think I have proved it is possible to get to Stonehenge by public transport, bus all the way to at least one end of the Stonehenge landscape if you're in the mood for a long walk across to the main site, and you can avoid paying anything whatsoever other than the bus fare, which I think is just £2 each way. I'm not sure if any of you are going to be rushing out to repeat this exercise, but anyway, thank you very much for watching and I'll see you on the next one.